Hello and welcome, Exile. Today I want to talk about the next level of ring. The way you're going to min-max your characters going forward, given that Reflecting Mist is now a core part of the game. I'll give you an example real quick. This is an in-stacking ring. It has T1 intelligence, it has T1 all attribute, it has synthesized percent intelligence, and currently I'm wearing a helical ring that I reflected with mist. Now, let's see what happens when I put on this int ring. I currently have 2165 intelligence, but I swap this int stacking ring with a helical ring I made, and I lose 300 intelligence. Now, why is that? Because reflecting mist is insane. Now, if you look at this helical ring, it has two positive stats, int and all attributes. And those two stats outweigh the value of the percent int synth, along with the flat attributes this ring has, which is that's the most int you can really get on there. You can't get more on there. And it beats it by a clean 300 int. Now, granted, it's 150 int per ring. This is reflected, so just keep in mind this is happening twice when you swap these out. But hopefully it's a pretty clear picture of the power level we're talking about here. I believe helical rings, when crafted just to an average level, being if you get two stats to match for a stat stacker, strength, dex, int, tri-stacker, whatever it is, that will be your basic synth ring with a percent int, percent strength, whatever it is. Quite frankly, I think it's going to come close to competing with mirror tier rings. And I'll go a step further. If you hit the perfect helical mist reflection, one where you make all the ideal mods go positive, you will probably be better off than the mirror tier level of rings. Now, there is an exception for this if your build is a charge stacker. I believe synth charge stacking rings will still have a place in this game. But as for attribute stacking or other valuable stat stacking of like crit multi, cast speed, those sorts of things, helical rings or other high space rings with reflecting mist are going to just outclass them. Now let's go ahead and talk about reflecting mist and some of the mechanics. Reflecting mist is a resource that you get. It's pretty rare. I've found probably about 10 reflecting mist every single time I've just gotten the ring reflection option. But sometimes when you find that, you click reflect, and it will drop you a mist. Now, what does this do? When I click this on this ring, it is going to do a basically positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, negative. It's going to choose whether or not the stat goes negative or whether or not the stat goes positive, and it gives you back both sides of the ring. So I'm going to right-click this, left-click this, and I will get back a ring that has randomly flipped negative or positive values. Now, when you're doing something like this, you can increase your odds to have a good outcome. And what do I mean by that? When you have a ring that has all good stats, and two of those good stats go negative, those two stats that go negative cancel out some of the positive stats you have. So in the grand scheme of things, if you're min-maxing, yes, you're gonna like do hit a coral lock and you're gonna check a bunch of rings until you get the perfect thing where all of the stats go positive, which is the best in slot, the god tier ring. But if you're like me, or you're just starting out and you're trying to get a pretty good ring to upgrade from your synth ring or upgrade from your rare ring you bought off trade, you might just want two stats to go positive and it will still be a massive upgrade. So if you look at this ring right here, I've set this up. I have two stats I care about. I care about int and I care about all attributes. Whereas minus or minimum endurance charge and aspect of the spider, I care about those stats, but if they go negative, they do not detriment the value of the ring. For example, on this ring here, you'll notice I have negative minimum endurance charge. If I put this on my character, it does prevent me from stacking minimum endurance charges, but it doesn't hurt me if I wasn't stacking those to begin with. I can still go and have endurance charge on kill or have some sort of endurance charge generation, and that won't hurt me. So it went negative, and that was okay. But on the flip side, if it went positive with the attributes, it would be a nice upside. So it adds value without detracting from the ring's outcome when it goes negative. So I'm leveraging my chance for success here. Because I only have two stats I care about going positive or negative, I have a very high chance of success. It's like a 50% chance because that's the odd that the attributes are going to match in terms of going the same direction. Now, doing this, I have a very bricked base. I have 3 evasion. For example, if you've been crafting helicals, you know they made it so helicals can no longer get cleaned from their fracture. But don't worry, that's not necessarily that bad of a thing, because you can buy a bad fracture like this and be okay with the fact if that 3 evasion goes negative, I'm not really going to care. Now, let's go ahead and show you what this looks like when you actually click reflect on the ring. we got a ring that says plus 40 all attribute, minus 180 int. So I, unfortunately, lost my 50-50. This ring will not end up being valuable to me. You see right here, this is the opposite side of it. You get both sides of the thing. On both of these, you will notice the aspect of the spider is the same. You get aspect regardless of which side it's on, so that stat doesn't change. And you may notice that there's only +1 minimum endurance charge. Even though I about doubled my stats here, I only got +1 in minimum endurance charge. This will bring me to my next point, which is Reflecting Mist varies in range. As far as I know, from what I've been told and what I've experimented with so far, they have a range of a multiplier of 1.5 to 2.1, and it's just RNG whether or not you hit that. Now, the fun thing about helicals is you can hit the 2x multiplier, and you don't go to 1 minimum endurance charge, you go to 3. So if you really high roll the multiplier, for example, if this ring had hit the positive int with the attributes instead of the positive evasion, this ring would have been monstrously good for my character. Having almost 250 int on one ring on top of stacking my endurance charges all the way to a minimum of 6 where I could invest in a max endurance charge and I would still be capped, that would have been insane. But as far as I can tell, it's completely contingent on hitting the 2x multiplier at the very least. Because even though I have 50% effect on this ring, and I multiplied it by, another 70% value or whatever, however the calculation is done underneath the code, it doesn't allow you to hit 2 minimum endurance charges from what I can tell. You either hit 3 if you high roll, or, Steve's still going, Giga Chat. Best name I've seen, bar none, in the past year of people naming characters. Need for Steve Underground. Anyways, as I was saying, as far as I can tell, you need to hit at least a 2x multiplier to get the outcome where the minimum charge goes to 3. Just a little side note of how the multipliers work. They roll from 1.5 to 2. And now, if you're thinking, dang it, Lance, you just did this and you just lost a Reflecting Mist that's worth a Divine, and you killed your base. You have 2 bases that are bricked now. That's just minus a lot of money. This seems expensive, Lance. How can you afford to do this? Well, there is a vendor recipe that works really well with this. Now, the vendor recipe, you can't use rings with the same name because these are reflected of each other. I can't use them together. But you'll notice I have 4 other bricked rings here where I didn't succeed on the reflection. And what I can do is I can go over here, I can sell them to the vendor 5 to 1, and I get back a clean helical base. This is an item level 84 base because in here I have an item level 84. It'll go to the lowest level item you have in here. So typically, if you have a really bricked item level and you don't want to repeat that, don't use that in your 5 to 1 recipe. But you'll notice we get a clean base here. I'm going to click sell. I have now this clean base here, which is rare, and it is not split. So I can go back to the helical, I can go back to the menagerie. I can pretend this never happened, where I never bricked the fracture to begin with. I never had anything go wrong. And, no matching recipes. Oh, because I don't have any rare beasts. Well, regardless, what I was going to show you is you go back and split this ring. Now, if you are a fan of doing math, you can only do this one. You can't do this one because it can't have 6 mods. You can split it into 2. If you're a fan of doing math and you're running the numbers a little bit, every time you do this, say you have 5 attempts where you basically mirror the item, you get back and mirrored copies. Maybe one of those is usable and the other 9 is bad. That's okay because you can recuperate. Because what I can do is now, for every time I split the ring, I get 2 rings, 2 attempts to do the Reflecting Mist. Every time I miss, that becomes 4 rings total. So it's almost a self-sustaining cycle because for every single unsplit helical base, you can create 4 mirrored copies as an outcome. And that's 4 out of 5 that you need to do the 5 to 1 recipe. So it kind of can cycle itself around, even though you may not have the finances to go buy extra bases. The initial bases you buy will pay towards getting your next set of attempts on the Reflecting Mist. So it saves you a lot of cost in case you get unlucky, in case you miss some of the outcomes. And hopefully this gives you a good idea of how to improve your character. This Reflecting Mist has the same mechanics for amulets. People are going to do them with simplex. People are doing them with focused amulets, etc. And it might give you some ideas of how to really, really pump your power level up and really just go ham. These rings are insane. Again, the showcase here is I'm an instacker. The difference between a synth int stack ring and this ring is 300 int when it's copied between the two rings. Very high value, and it can get higher, especially if you start rolling other additional mods positives. And that's pretty much it. Hope you guys enjoyed this video about the helical ring and the reflecting mist and what you can do with it. There's a lot of other applications on other ring bases. I'd say good luck to you out there, and hopefully this gives you something cool to make for your own build. As always, thanks for watching, Exiles. Take care, and peace out. Have a good one.